Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days in today's second video. This will take us to around the middle of September. I'll also bring you up to date with what's happening in the tropical Atlantic in terms of storms and hurricanes. Then at the end of the video, we'll have a look at Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days. So quite a bit to cram in to today's second video update. Just to say that today's first video was a 5-day forecast, so it looks like it'll be quite a changeable 5 days ahead, a little bit more unsettled than we've been used to lately, and also a little bit cooler as well, especially by the end of the week and into the weekend. But I'll let you have a look at the 5-day forecast, see what's going on in the shorter range. We'll start off though by having a look at the Atlantic tropical cyclones and disturbances chart from the National Hurricane Center, which is a part of NOAA in the United States. So we've got three areas of interest. Let's deal with this orange X over here first of all in the eastern part of the tropical Atlantic. That's an area of thunderstorms that has undergone development over the past few hours. You'll remember yesterday's video, this was a yellow X. It's now an orange X, telling us that we have a 40 to 60% chance of these storms developing into a depression or possibly a tropical storm. So what the National Hurricane Center is saying about this is that shower activity associated with a broad area of low pressure centered a couple of 100 miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands has become better organised since yesterday, so that's why the X has gone from yellow to orange. Environmental conditions are forecast to be conducive for additional development, and a tropical depression is expected to form by the end of the week while the system moves west-northwest across the tropical Atlantic. So for the next 48 hours, there's a 50% chance of this becoming a tropical storm, but over the next 5 days, actually there's a 90% chance that this will become a tropical storm. So that's probably going to be our next storm developing there in the coming days. We've also got Gordon over here, which is now a tropical depression moving into the southern area of the United States. So that was a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico yesterday. It did briefly, I think, become a hurricane as it neared that Gulf Coast. It's gone inland and it has weakened down to a tropical depression. At the moment, it's down here in the south, so we're somewhere between Alabama and Louisiana with this storm. We're going to push it northwards to Arkansas and then carry on moving northwards through the end of the week and into weekend as well, and then curving as a post-tropical depression in towards Illinois and northern parts of the United States. So it will be bringing wet and windy conditions to the Midwest in the coming few days as a post-tropical depression. And then, of course, we've also got Florence. Now, Florence has undergone very rapid development. Yesterday, when I did the update, it was forecast to remain as a tropical storm until the weekend and only become a hurricane over the coming weekend. But then within a few hours, it was up to hurricane status. So just to show you how unpredictable these features can be in the tropical Atlantic. At the moment, this is the position of now Category 2 Hurricane Florence in the middle of the tropical Atlantic. So as it's Category 2 storm, which means that it's got maximum sustained winds of 105 miles an hour. Gusts will probably be going up to around 120 miles an hour with Category 2 Hurricane Florence. The only saving grace at the moment, so it's nowhere near any particular land area. So, unlike yesterday, when this was forecast to be a tropical storm through to the weekend, and then it would become a hurricane over the weekend, now it is forecast to be a hurricane right way through to the weekend. So this is the current position of Florence just there, and as you can see with these H's in the black circles, we are keeping hurricane status right way through to the weekend start of next week. That's the forecast position, somewhere around there, as we get through to the start of next week, getting ever closer to the island of Bermuda up here, so they may be in for a bit of a hit through the early part of next week. Have to wait, see about that. National Hurricane Center is saying that this is likely to, it's Category 2 hurricane now, it's likely to lose its intensity a bit through the end of the week, so probably going down to a Category 1, but then over weekend it is expected to intensify again. Now, at no point is this becoming a major hurricane. We'll know if it becomes a major Category 3 or above hurricane, because the H in the black circle there, that will be replaced by an M, which will tell us that it's gone from just being a hurricane, Category 1 or 2, to a major Category 3 or above hurricane. At the moment, it isn't forecast to become Category 3 or above, but they do say, the National Hurricane Centre does say, that this is likely to undergo intensification after a bit of a weakening, likely to re-intensify over the weekend, and possibly we'll have to see how intense this becomes. But Florence certainly one to keep an eye on as it moves ever closer towards Bermuda. Right, let's come back close home. This is the central England temperature from Hadley, and we're starting to reduce this now. So earlier on, a couple of days ago, this was above 17 degrees Celsius. Now provisional to the 4th of September, we're standing at 16.7. Still a big anomaly above average, still 2 degrees above average, but it looks like we have reached our peak in terms of the temperature for this month, and I would expect this to reduce over the coming few days. By the middle of the month, we may not be all that far from the long-term average. GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking like this. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature. Looking at Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland today. So bear in mind, this is a long way north. It won't be all that representative for places like London or possibly even Birmingham down across England. But it does look as though we're in for a pretty cool time of it, really, especially in the northern part of the country. So generally, a little bit above average in the next few hours, but generally over the next week, it looks like the upper air temperature anyway in Aberdeen is staying below average. It's not until we get through until the third week of the month, this period just here, a very long way out, but it's starting to lift those temperatures up a bit, turning a wee bit milder then. But overall, it does look like a pretty cool time of it is on the way for the northern part of the country. It won't be as cool as that down in the south, but nevertheless, I do think we'll see the temperatures reducing. And I think we've reached our peak for September 2018's temperature. I would suspect it will be gradually dropping now through towards the end of the month. Also quite unsettled for Aberdeen as well. So we've got quite a lot of rain coming up over the next few days. That's as an area of low pressure will be sitting in the North Sea, throwing in showery bands of rain into the eastern and northeastern part of the country. And then over the weekend and into next week as well, also a fair few precipitation spikes. Do keep in mind, down in the south and the southeast, it won't be anywhere near as wet as this is showing. But certainly the northern part of the country, cool and unsettled, pretty much sums it up. So there's a temperature anomaly for the next week. This goes from the 5th through to the 13th of September. England and Wales coming out ever so slightly milder than average. Scotland, Northern England, parts of Northern Ireland coming out ever so slightly cooler than average. It's not a big deviation either way, but it is certainly cooler compared to what we have through most of the summer of 2018. Precipitation anomalies looking like that. So down in the south, we're holding on to drier than average conditions through the south and the southeast. But up in the north, it looks like precipitation is much closer to average. So it's a much more unsettled scene in the north. It is a lot drier, though, down in the south. This is how the GFS is looking for Saturday. This is all covered by the 5-day forecast, of course, up to Monday. So that's the main area of low pressure off the east coast of Scotland. But on Saturday, we have also got another weather system, which at 6 o'clock in the morning is in that kind of position, moving in from the west. So Saturday does bring some quite cloudy, wet weather to many parts of the country. Through to Sunday and Monday, we start to get this high pressure ridging to the south, but we've got low pressure up to the north. So a bit of a north-south split setting up by the start of next week, with high pressure down to the southern part of the country, but low pressure is up to the north. The jet stream is going through the north like that as well. That's how things are looking on Tuesday. Again, north-south split, high pressure coast to the south on Tuesday, but low pressure is up in the north with its attendant weather fronts. So this is the upper air temperature chart for Tuesday, and it shows that basically we are somewhere between summer and we've got summer holding on down in the south with the upper air temperatures there, the 10 Celsius isotherm across England and Wales. But up to the north, actually, we're bringing in proper sort of autumnal air coming into the north. So we have got a real sort of battle going on there between summer clinging on by its fingertips down in the south, but autumn is knocking on the door up in the north. These are our thickness lines. Don't show these very often, but it's another way of sort of representing the temperature. So where we've got that lemon coloured line just there, and that's through England and Wales, it's going to be pretty warm. That's still summer holding on across England and Wales early next week. But this green line, the green line is the 546 line, and that is depicting autumn. So we've got autumn knocking on the door to our north, but we've got summer sort of clinging on by its fingertips down to the south. Now, of course, we're in September, so eventually summer will be pushed out of the way and we'll go into autumn, but it just depends how quickly we're going to do it. In between, of course, we've got a temperature contrast, and there's bound to be a weather front strung out in that sort of position, marking the boundary between summer to the south and autumn up to the north. So there will be wet weather through the central and northern part of the country through the early part of next week, while the south will be reasonably warm. Now that's Wednesday. We start to find that the cooler air begins to move southwards on Wednesday. So we're starting to drop that autumnal line further south across the country. There's the upper air temperatures for Thursday, showing that it has cooled down across the whole of the country. The 5 Celsius isotherm has pushed through, but 10 Celsius isotherm, which is summer, that's been moved down into France. There's a thickness line showing that the green autumnal line, the 546 line, that is moving southwards as well. We are in an area of high pressure though, so it'll be reasonably dry, but expect some quite cold nights with that. Up to day 10, which is Saturday the 15th of September, low pressure is beginning to develop up to the north of Scotland. And as we go into the second half of the month, actually it does turn increasingly unsettled. Look at this, we begin to pull down some really quite unsettled, cool northwesterly winds, and low pressure becomes very dominant. So by the time we get through to the very end of the GFS run, which is Friday the 21st of September, really big changes. We are bringing down a strong and quite a cold northerly wind. Look at that. That's coming down from the Arctic with a big area of low pressure to our east, and this ridge pushing up to Greenland. That is real autumnal weather. No getting away from that. That's properly opening the door not only to cool air but actually to cold air. We've got the -5 Celsius isotherm surging southwards and trying to get towards northern Scotland. That's probably a bit over the top, but I think as we go into the second half of September, we are seeing signs that it's going to turn increasingly autumnal, and it may well be that this September is going to be a rather cooler and more unsettled month than we was anticipating a couple of days ago. Certainly wouldn't rule it out that this September is going to actually, I wouldn't go as far as say it's going to come out cooler than average, because we are starting off from quite a warm base. We're still 2 degrees above average for the CET, for example. But yeah, I think it could be shaping up to be a rather more unsettled and cooler month than we might have thought a day or so ago. The ECMWF looks like that, so again, Saturday, rather an unsettled day, really, but early next week we've got high pressure building up to the south with low pressure up to the north. So there's that north-south split we saw on the GFS. There is a weather front marking the boundary as well. The weather front is through that sort of position, so to the south of it, going to be quite warm. To the north of it, it's going to be autumnal, and the front itself will probably be producing some quite heavy rain through the central swathe of the country. That's Wednesday. Front moving southwards, it's in that sort of position midnight Tuesday to Wednesday. So obviously the cool air becoming southwards behind that front, but still reasonably warm down in the south and southeast. There's the upper air temperatures showing, again, big temperature contrast. This could bring quite a bit of wet weather actually when you get a big temperature contrast like this, especially in autumn. So you can get some quite heavy rains out of it. So yeah, we'll have to watch out how much rain there is through the early part of next week. Second half of next week, it all becomes much simpler. The front gets out of the way. We open the door to this much cooler northwesterly wind. High pressures to our southwest, so a reasonable amount of dry weather in the south, but it is showery up in the north. And that's how we finish up at day 10, which is Saturday the 15th of September. Begin to look a little bit ominous, similar to the GFS. We're starting to pull this ridge further out into the middle of the Atlantic. We've got these areas of low pressure up to the north. We have got some height rises to the north of that, actually, close towards Greenland. And so if we could roll on another day or so, I suspect we will find these low pressures deepening, intensifying, invigorating, bringing potentially quite a lot of wet weather into the second half of September, and probably turning things a lot cooler as well. So proper autumnal conditions could be on the way with the ECM as well, just a bit beyond day 10. Then finally, for the shorter range models, the GEM looks like this, a Canadian model, always a bit different. So it's making more of this ridge down in the south through the early part of next week. The cooler air and its weather front is pushed a lot further north into that sort of position. So actually many parts of the country will have a warm start to next week, and even up to the middle of next week looking pretty dry and warm as well. Not until the very end of the GFS run that we turn things cooler and we bring down that northwesterly flow. But GEM is always a bit different though to the other two models, and I'm not sure how seriously we should take that. By the way, that area of low pressure just there is the remains of, or it might still be, Tropical Storm or Hurricane Florence at that point, but that's Florence as an area of low pressure just on the far left-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. That may well get caught up in the jet stream. We'll have to see what sort of impacts Florence has as we go into the second half of September. All in all, it does look as though things are becoming more changeable the deeper we're going into this month. Finally, just have a look at the Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period taking us from the 6th through to the 15th of September with above average heights, maybe surprisingly so compared to the charts we've just been looking at. But the model is going for above average heights to still be there over and to the east of the country with low pressure up to the north with the jet stream. I think that's going to be more unsettled than that showing for the coming 10 days. I don't think it's going to be as anticyclonic as that. These long-range ones, Beijing Climate Centre, CFS, particularly CFS, also the JMA at times, they do tend to get themselves a bit stuck in a rut really with these consistent weather patterns. They can't see a way out of it. So I think for the coming 10 days, that is overdoing the high pressure signal. The next 10 days looks a little bit more unsettled. This is from the 16th to the 25th of September with below average heights over and just to the southwest country. We still have that area of above average heights, but it's going further northeast. So it is losing its influence there. That's a bit more changeable. There's a bit of a dip in the jet stream in the 500 millibar flow. And so I think that would be more what you'd expect really for the second half of September. Will be a bit more unsettled, a bit more changeable and cooler there from the 16th to the 25th. Then we're through to the next 10-day period, which takes us from the 26th of September to the 5th of October. If anything, the above average heights is re-strengthening again to the east-northeast. That will bring in easterly winds and mainly dry weather. Probably not overly warm by then because easterly winds, by the time you get through to October, they're not going to be overly hot coming off the continent. And then the final 10-day period, days 31 to 40, which is the 6th through to the 15th of October. Low pressure's deepening in the Atlantic, so that looks like it's turning a lot more unsettled as well. The above average height still there over Scandinavia, but weakening off, I think, as we get to the early part of October. that really is unleashing autumnal conditions. But to be honest, I think autumnal conditions may well be unleashed through September. I've got a feeling these long-range models, with their never-ending high pressure and wanting to keep summer going indefinitely type ideas, I've got a feeling they have called this wrong. And I think September, especially the second half of the month, is likely to turn out to be a rather cooler and rather more unsettled, rather more autumnal type month than maybe we was thinking only a short time ago. So interesting developments, really, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the second half of September. But I wouldn't be ruling out the chance of bringing down some very cool air from the north at some point around the third week of September. It does seem to be showing up quite a lot on the GFS run at the moment, this extended range idea of bringing down some pretty cool air from the north in the more immediate time frames, kind of like next week to 10 days. So I think we're gradually turning things more unsettled, but in the south there's going to continue to be a reasonable amount of dry and quite warm weather at times. In the north it does look as though it's already properly autumnal, really, and I don't see any change to the north. We saw it on the ensemble chart for Aberdeen. I think you're into autumnal conditions now. In the south, summer holds on by its fingertips, but I think its days are probably numbered as we go through to the second half of the month. I think we go into really quite autumnal conditions. So that's how we're looking for today's video. We'll do it all over again tomorrow. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.